Today's program is part of a special series brought to you by St. Agnes Medical Center and Every Neighborhood Partnership, with funding provided by ACEs Aware. Together, we are working to raise awareness about the effects of adverse childhood experiences in hopes of building a healthier community and a brighter future for our children. Dr. B explains the importance of acknowledging our stressors of the past in order to thrive in the present. Plus, she shares practical tips for coping through challenging times and building greater resiliency so you and your family can enjoy healthier and more fulfilling life.
Hi, you're listening to Delusional Optimism with Dr. B,
where we explore human resiliency
and learn how people thrive even after adversity.
We break down the complexities of the human brain so concepts are simple and relatable.
It's fun and empowering to understand how your earliest experiences
influence your relationships today.
What makes you tick?
Dr. B is a speaker, trainer, and consultant who understands emotions and human development from the inside out.
Let's dive into today's episode.
Here's Dr. B.
Good morning, Dr. B. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you, Seth?
Doing well. It's heating up here in Indiana, and I have mixed feelings about that. I don't like sweating. I don't. I'd rather shiver than sweat. I'll say that.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm the exact opposite. I love the heat, and it's heating up here, and I'm in a hooded sweatshirt, and it's going to be like 93, and I think that's cold today.
My goodness.
I know.
It's like 84 here, and it feels like 93 or whatever, and I'm just like, Nope, gonna stay indoors.
Yeah.
But today we are talking about a topic that I think really needs to be talked about, and that is basically how we are, I guess, viewing and training trauma. And how people are triggered and what to do and what to not do, all those things. So let's start off with the basics. I guess we all assume that we assume that we know what trauma is. So Dr. B, can you give us a short summary of trauma?
So the question of what is trauma, there's probably a lot of definitions for trauma, but in the grand scheme of things, it's an experience that we have that impacts our neurobiology at a level that is intense enough to really change who we are and change how we react or respond to any situation. You know, there will be different situations for different people. But on a very, very broad stroke definition, trauma can happen in a very short amount of time. But typically, when we think of trauma in the moment around adverse childhood experiences and ACEs, we think of it in a once experience. You know, did you experience physical abuse before the age of 18 one time or 1,000 times?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's intensity and duration, like Jerome talked about in a previous episode.
Yep.
Or did you experience sexual abuse? Did you experience the loss of a parent? It's a one-time thing. You can only lose your mom one time, but it's a highly intense traumatic experience. So trauma is complex, and I think in our desire for everybody to understand it, we're oversimplifying it, and that is creating an entirely new set of problems around trauma-informed care and training.
Yeah. So what are the problems and what are the misconceptions that you run up against in your trainings?
Well, one, coming from a clinical background, so from a therapeutic perspective, I realize like everything that people struggle with in therapy often have a link in early childhood, infancy, or a traumatic event. So we have to think about training and experience is an extended experience of a therapeutic relationship. And so we can talk about trauma, but just talking about trauma is quote unquote triggering, and that means that if people become triggered or people are impacted by that discussion, then they can't be open to learning new information because they're processing. And you can't really be processing your experience at the same time you're learning a whole new, brand new set of information or tools. And that's what's happening is we find when we do training, we create a space where it's never just me training. I have a clinician in training with us who's always available to the audience for support if they feel like something that I say during training makes them feel sensitive or causes a reaction for them.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to open up a wound and send somebody out the door. That's not what we want to do.
Yeah.
So we need to close loops continually when we do training. And what we found a little bit surprisingly is we have never now done a training where somebody has not reached out to the clinician for support. So multiple times it's been multiple people, and sometimes it's just been one.
Yeah.
But there's always, and I'll be completely unaware because I'm involved in the content and the training, but I'm not training about, how to use Microsoft Word. I'm training about, your emotional experience in infancy. So I'm thinking about that stuff. And I myself, professionally as a clinician, but also I've done my own work as a person with my own therapist, my own psychologist over many years, which keeps me like a car tuned up for my own experiences with this work, because this work can be triggering for me as well.
Yeah, and I mean, we joke about training on Microsoft Word, but I imagine there's a higher likelihood that in your training sessions there's more loops that need to be closed. But I'm sure there's plenty of other situations that we wouldn't think of as a potential loop that we just need to pay more close attention to potential trigger points.
The other thing that we've learned is that training too much content in a short amount of time is a disaster. What we've learned is that it's so much more important to be a sensitive, attuned trainer around trauma with a small amount of material where you're able to massage that material with the audience or the group or the staff or the people, whoever they are, whoever the audience is, and let them process it while they're learning it.
Yeah.
In a careful and gentle way, rather than trying to cram all the information into a couple of hours and it just ends up being a mess,
Yeah.
It really ends up being a mess. People leave with a ton of information. They have no idea what to do with it. They're completely emotionally raw and unclosed, wounded. And then they never want to go back to that again. They certainly don't want to go do that again, but they also aren't going to implement trauma-informed practices and policies and procedures into their businesses, organizations, communities, because it's too painful.
The thing that pops in my head is that the word trigger has become kind of used too often. Yeah, it's triggering. Used too often more to describe that my feelings are hurt and I am uncomfortable versus an actual traumatic response that your nervous system is taking over and you feel out of control, you feel outside of your body. And it really, I think, diminishes people's actual lived-in experience when it's just like, oh, somebody put pepperoni on my pizza and I didn't want it. I'm triggered. That's the whole snowflake complex that my generation gets a bad rap for, which To be fair, I am in somewhat of agreement with that critique of the generation of where we are. We get a little too sensitive. Like the whole, like my generation is about, we're creating safe spaces. Okay, yes. We also need to create brave spaces at the same time, in the same space. And so I guess talk to us a little bit about that and how you see how to differentiate that and maybe some of the downfalls of using triggering too much as like an excuse for just, I have uncomfortable feelings.
Okay, I love that lead into this because one, as the mother of Generation Z and millennials, I feel so protective, because we created these sensitive generations who are in touch with their feelings now. But you're right. We do want, and I do think that millennials and Gen Zs have the capacity to create safe spaces and brave spaces, but they need guidance. They still need guidance. We haven't. We have not given them the tools or given these younger generations the tools, like the full package. This is how you do it. These are the principles that you need to follow. And if you follow these principles and you grow them your own organic way too, so it keeps going, then we really will. All spaces will be safe and all spaces will be brave and it'll be awesome. And that is, we're in this weird transition zone of, okay, yeah, we've got these younger generations now who are ready. Like you're ready to do it, but you don't have enough leadership, grown-ups, parents, professionals in the room with you to say, whoa, that's a feeling, not a trigger. Like that's a feeling, not a trigger. Pepperoni's like, oh yeah, I don't prefer that. But a feeling is, oh yeah, I don't like that. Oh, I'm cold. Oh, I'm hot. I'm hot. It's bugging me, but it's not actually, just like you said, it's not taking over your neurological or your biological system, where you are activated, your stress response system is activated, and now you can't think straight because your brain has moved from rational thought into survival mode.
Right.
And it can be, super survival mode, like Nadine Burke-Harris talks about, Dr. Burke-Harris talks about with, the bear is coming at you.
Right. Or
it can just be, I'm checking out. I can't hear anything you say now because now I am completely checked out. Yeah. And we don't need to confuse that. We don't need to confuse a feeling with a trauma. That's so basic that we need to, that in and of itself can be a lesson that's like, oh yeah, okay, let's not overuse the word trigger anymore. Let's use the word feeling. I'm having a big feeling about that. But it's not going to change my life. It's not going to keep me from going to work. But a trauma trigger can literally knock you into a depression or a panic attack or an angry rage. A trauma activation does something very big and we feel totally out of control.
Yeah, the difference, maybe another way of saying it is like, I have a certain sensitivity to this issue or to the way that this person is reacting. And I think, even though we're kind of splitting hairs here, I think it's very, very, very important. Because then when you say, hey, I feel triggered, then you know that if another person says, I feel triggered, you know exactly what's happening and okay, let's back up, let's take a break, let's whatever, versus just, hey, I'm really sensitive about that. Like then you can like keep talking through it, you can keep doing the thing, whatever. Completely different responses to a similar situation.
And it builds up. It builds up the boundaries for safe and brave spaces. It says, hey, oh, you that makes you feel uncomfortable? Well, let me make it safer for you. And the person who's saying, hey, I'm feeling a little weird about this. that gives them the context of bravery. Now we have brave and safe spaces.
Oh,
so
I love that.
we're doing it by practicing, and it takes trying it out a lot of times in different ways in order to get good at it. And so that's why I don't want millennials and I don't want Gen Z to be discouraged by trying to do it and then they get slammed, and I don't want you to give up, because you're doing the work that only you can do. It's too late for baby boomers. It's too late for Gen X to do the work that you're doing around brave and safe spaces. We've set the framework. We have built the structure, and now you have to fill in the house.
Yeah,
and you can only do that by picking the wrong furniture first, or painting it the wrong color and going, oh yeah, that was a terrible idea. Let's not use the word trigger, and let's not paint the walls, orange and purple.
It just occurred to me that what you're describing is exactly what baby boomers and the like are reacting against, is like, one, the transition of language of, we can't say this word anymore. Even though back in the day, they didn't mean anything negative about it, but we're like, okay, but we're evolving and realizing that that's not the best word to use. That doesn't respect this individual's whatever. So for past generations, I imagine it very disconcerting to be like, I'm not a bad person if I didn't know that I was hurting someone.
Right. Well, it's also, it's a passing of the torch.
Yes, and that's going to be messy.
And that's going to be messy. Yeah, sometimes, think about a relay race. The baton gets dropped and the person who is supposed to catch it drops it. Okay, guess what? But you can still pick it up again and keep running.
Yeah.
That's the beauty. We don't have to, and then somebody is going to go way out ahead and somebody's going to be tagging along way behind. But that's the beauty of transitioning, passing the torch from the older generations to the younger generations, and then they will pass the torch to the younger generations. This is what Leave a Lifeprint means, is
That's great.
Gracefully passing the torch and then becoming instead the influencer and transitioning to becoming the supporter, lifter, upper.
Yeah.
My job I see now as, I'm an informant for sure, but I also see it as, what? There's a lot of young people who are doing this work like on the ground. So my job is to be their supporter.
That's amazing. Yeah, and I think that's probably butcher this, but I recall listening to a podcast about, I think it was Japanese culture, that at a certain age, an older person becomes, they lose their sense of labels and identity in a good way, as in like, you are now just a part of the community where young people come to you, you give them wisdom, and they go do their thing. There's no more title for you anymore. And that's really hard for American culture. My goodness.
Yeah.
Like just look at both sides of the spectrum of political people. It's vastly older than what I feel like it should be.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Of course, there is wisdom in age. Most people, there is wisdom in age.
Yeah.
Some level of wisdom. They're not always mature in the wisdom, but there's some level of wisdom in everyone as they age.
Yeah.
They've learned things, good or bad. But yeah, I think that's, and I'm prepping myself for, I am now, apparently skinny jeans are not a thing anymore.
Oh my gosh, I heard that too.
Yeah, right. I don't, we'll see how long that lasts. But it's like, I'm realizing, and like some of my clients and students, I'm mentioning bands and movies that I grew up seeing. I'm just realizing I'm getting older. I'm like, and I'm prepping myself already of like, okay, how do I pass on this torch gracefully without getting my ego involved? And like, I need to be important. Just like, it's so tough. It's a really tough thing.
Yeah. But I think that it can be so graceful when we understand it. Like when you explain it through the lens of Japanese culture, where you become, and I know there's other cultures that have, strong ties to their elders and the wisdom of the elders that we could, as Americans, I mean, we're a very, very young country. We could learn something from this, that if we allowed ourselves to recognize, and I've kind of personally experienced this too, as I've always been the parent, I've always been the professional, I've always been the grown up in the room kind of thing, and watching my own adult children really grow into themselves has taught me a lot around passing the torch and letting them help me. Letting them be, letting them be the ones who are like, oh, you know what? Yeah, they're totally competent. They're totally smart, and they're loving people, and I need help. And so who am I going to turn to? My children. Or somebody else's children who are in the same age group. But guess what? That feels like such a relief when we let ourselves off the hook and trust what we have grown. We've grown this generation. They are not going to fail us. They can't be us, though. That's where we struggle. Is we grew the generation that we wanted, but they're not going to be who we are because we were grown by a different generation. So we have to let it evolve and let this group evolve into the collective voice and collective powerful force that they're going to be. At millennials alone, 80 million strong. Like 80 million strong millennials. That does not include Gen Z. So it's a powerful force. There's no point in trying to hold back the waves. There's no point in doing that. It's gonna be okay. And I think that's where trauma really comes in, is we want to control everything. And being able, healing trauma means letting go of that control.
Dr. B, you are preaching today. My goodness. Come on.
It started from our text convo last night.
Yes.
I'm like, whoa. Yeah.
Yeah, this is great. Yeah, say what that small phrase again. What did you say again?
We've got to just let go of the control. We've got to let go of the control and allow what's going to happen and be okay with it.
Yeah.
And let it unfold and let it evolve and trust that we've put it into good hands. Yeah. We've passed the torch into good hands, and you can't make something happen. It's that whole, square peg round hole thing.
Yep.
Can't do it.
Yeah. And speaking from a millennial standpoint, I mean, thank you, previous generations, for the work that you have done in building this structure. Yes, we are strange. We are very strange. And we have strange ideas. We'll work it out, but we love the earth as much as you do. And we're going to take care of it as best as we know how, as you have trained us. So just bear with us as we work through the messy parts of growing up.
Yeah.
And I think the best way that previous generations can support the generation after is to be the net underneath them that, okay, yeah, you're going to mess up, you're going to do some really silly, stupid stuff, but like, we'll catch you, we'll talk about it, now get back out there and go do the thing. And I mean, I'm having to do that with my younger sister in some regards, is like, how do I keep pushing her in a direction that I know she can go, and I know that she's going to do wonderful, amazing things, but I can't control her. I can't make her do anything. I can't convince her of anything. I just have to ask better questions and have her find the answer.
Yeah. I mean, it really is. It's taking the micro of parenting and putting it into the macro of the world, of a whole generation. It's taking, it's saying to the generations who built the frame, Gen X, boomers, even before them, the traditionalists, it's really saying that we were the parents, and now we are your safety net, and we're here for you. Why in the world, as a parent or as an entire generation, would we want to work against our children? Whether there are community of children or whether are the children in our family, why would we ever pick that? And so as parents and as resilient building communities, we need to embrace this narrative about parenting and how you first start by really holding and nurturing and loving and connecting and teaching and being there with this young child. But eventually that young child takes off and they then do come back to you, and you're the net. And now you're the net. And so, and we pull them up. We pull them up by the rope if they need to, Yeah. It's in so many ways so simple, and yet we are just splattering the paint. We are making it so complicated. But I just want everybody to say, and when I hear you say we're messing it up, or we're getting there, but we're confused, that is such a normal place to be at this juncture of your lives and your generation's lives. We were just as confused at that point. Yeah. And now we're starting to feel I understand it. But now there's a whole bunch of other people trying to do it. And it's the letting go and the control come in.
Yeah, that letting go and control. I mean, and that brings us back to just the trauma. If we're going to let go and support those in front of us, we have to let go and support ourselves and acknowledge the difficulties that we've experienced. This episode has been absolute fire, and so let's close the loop and bring some practical takeaways to this episode. So what do you have?
All right. So yes, it's been so much fun. It's always so much fun for me because as a person who's a Gen X, getting to talk to you, who's a millennial, on this very equal level and perspective, I learned so much from you. And then you validate things that I hear, skinny jeans really are going out. So
I'm not ready to actually go there, but
I'm thinking about 3 or 4 things. And one of them is the difference between feelings and triggers. So being really consciously aware of the difference of when your stress regulating system is really being activated and moving into a different state, like anxiety, panic attack, depression, or, just active rage, overwhelming sadness. These are things that potentially fall into the triggering category, where having a feeling is more like a preference that is annoying and irritating and you don't like it, or you love it and it's so wonderful and great, but it doesn't change your footing on the ground. That's what I want to say about it.
That's great.
Your feet are planted. A feeling is a feeling, but it doesn't throw you off kilter. A trigger is like somebody just came and shoved you off your feet, and now you're having to rebalance. And you cannot, that does not happen instantaneously.
No.
Or quickly. You have to actually recover from a trigger.
Right.
You can just feel a feeling and go on.
Right.
So that's the difference between that. And in terms of trauma training and what we've learned by doing this intense run of, I think we've trained over 500 people in the last couple of months. Yeah, a lot of people in a lot of different situations, whether it's been Zoom training, we've done live training. What we've learned is that where typically content is king or queen, content is important, but we don't want to overdo the content at the cost of the process and the experience. We have to put the content into context for different people with different experiences and perspectives in a way that is slow enough for them to not be threatened and then want to run away from it. If we're really going to build in trauma-informed care and resilient communities and schools and businesses, then we need to do training that is manageable in pieces. And so we've taken a lot less content and allowed people to engage and manipulate and manage that material themselves, digest it in ways that make sense to them, because then it's usable for them when they leave. And yes, we don't get through as much material in the same amount of time, but that actually is good because it'll be better for long-term implementation.
Yep.
So that's the slowing down of trauma training that's very different than just do it at your own pace, whatever, learn how to, I don't know, cook. So, and then last but not least is this generational difference thing and embracing the changes that are coming and the future generations and letting go of needing to control all the moving parts. Because in the grand scheme of things, it's a very parallel process to parenting, in which we also struggle with culturally in a lot of ways. Like, how do we do it? Is there a one way? Is there a right way? There's a lot of right ways.
Right.
But there's also boundaries. Like, we need to stay within the boundaries of those right ways. So we've done good work. We've raised this generation, the millennials, and now it's completely unfair for us to criticize them for who they are becoming. We need to allow them to become who they're going to be. They're building their future, not our future.
Yeah.
We built our future. They're building their future, and we need to let them do that and release our fear, which is the biggest part of it, is fear and control. Release our fear and control and let them do it in a way that we probably, in some ways, and I know people will hate to hear this, but a lot of people will never see the consequences of the great things we did by building the millennial and Gen Z generations. Because I am the person who I have complete faith that you will transform our world into a safer, more loving, brave place.
Yeah.
Even though it's going to look like a painted garage for a little while.
Yeah.
Because we're like, wow, you're a little bit all over the place. And that's okay. That's okay.
Critiques are welcome. Criticism is not.
Yes. Agreed. Yeah, total. And that's true. That's true for everybody, right? Yeah. Let's learn. If we don't learn anything, let's learn this. We can do it together. We can make mistakes and learn together and from each other. Nobody knows everything. And the internet, if anything, has taught us that we're never going to know everything because good grief, it's all on Google. And we don't even need to know it because we can just Google it.
Exactly.
All right, everybody, that's it for today. It's great being here. I hope you have a great week. Thanks so much, Seth. Always great to talk to you. And now with that, go out and leave a life print. Thanks so much for listening to today's episode. I appreciate the opportunity to connect with you. If you're interested in booking a training, I'd love to hear from you. You can reach me at my website, Dr. B Connections. There's a big button that says, book a training with Dr. B. It's that easy. If this show has been beneficial for you, please share it with your friends and family. Spreading the word about the show helps us grow our audience and helps continue to change the world together. Again, thanks so much for listening to Delusional Optimism. Now, go leave a life print.
Thank you for listening to this special episode of Delusional Optimism, brought to you by St. Agnes Medical Center and Every Neighborhood Partnership. We hope you're encouraged by Dr. B's message and find her tips helpful for managing life's stressors and building a more resilient self. For more episodes in this special series, please visit St. Agnes Medical Center's website at www.samc.com. This episode is produced and published by the editing team at Truthwork Media. Truthwork Media is a full-fledged podcasting and social media agency located in South Bend, Indiana, with clients all around the world. For more information, visit them at truthworkmedia.com. These materials and all discussions of these materials are for educational purposes only and do not constitute medical or mental health advice. The presenter is not a licensed mental health or medical service provider. If you need medical or mental health care or advice, you should contact your doctor or therapist, or you can contact your insurance company for a referral. This show and all of its contents are copyright 2020 Dr. B Leave a Life Print. Reproduction or use requires written consent of Dr. Kristen Beasley.